I'm very happy to say I'm here with Michael Gibbs, wonderful guy, wonderful composer, legendary, and very amusing. And here we are.
Hello, this is for Stu, right?
Yeah, this is for Stu.
Hello, Stu, how are you doing?
Yeah, well, it's for everyone now. So anyway, Michael Gibbs, the thing that I want to talk to you about is a little statement that Pat Metheny said to me, and I think it's interesting in the way that it applies to you. He told me that people are always asking him, how do you develop a unique voice? How do you develop your own thing? And of course Pat tries to tell them, and so he has many things that he says to them. He says things such as, you follow what you love, follow your musical loves. But what I'm interested in is there is a certain breed of artist, which I think you are a great example of, who didn't have to follow any particular technique to find your own voice. You really found your own voice. So you found a new way of making music. You found a new way of making something that everybody said, what on earth was that? So what I want to know is, when did that first moment come when you were, obviously you'd been involved in music, but when was the first moment when you wrote something you thought, hey, that's really quite interesting. That's something, yeah, I tried that and it kind of worked. When was that moment?
Well, I'm not sure it worked like that. Well, first of all, I think it's extremely difficult not to be unique. One's unique by default, and so I didn't have to try. I just did what Pat said. I just followed my instinct, my heart, and what came out wasn't like anybody else. I still copy other people, but even when I copy, I probably don't do it well enough. I mean, I once I copied an idea, a flavor of Gil Evans, and when I recorded it, I had a lot of Gil's band in the band, and they said, oh, Gil, and I was really touched by that. I like that they recognized Gil. But mostly if I copy somebody else, I don't do it well enough that anyone recognizes it.
Right.
So, but I never worried about trying to be unique or find my own voice. I had my own voice whether I wanted it or not.
It's interesting you say that thing about copying. I mean, we all are influenced by people and we all copy other people, but I always find when I copy other people, like for instance, if I'm copying Ellington, somebody hears it and says, oh, that sounds like Cab Calloway. Or, you know, if I'm copying the Rolling Stones, they hear it and they say, oh, that sounds like Gil Evans.
Oh, I love it.
Isn't it great? Cause
but that's them putting their take
exactly.
on it. So I never worried about it.
Yeah, so it's not a problem to
No,
copy because nobody will notice it anyway. And if they do, so what?
I mean, on film schools sometimes producers have already put their music on, and they want music just like that.
Yes.
And I mean, I have been embarrassed sometimes when I can hear where I nicked it from for their sake.
Yes.
And no one else notices this,
No.
but I'm uncomfortable with it.
And how do you like the thing when you write something for a director and they say, we want it to sound exactly like Mozart. And you write it to sound like Mozart and they say, ugh, that doesn't sound like Mozart at all. That sounds like Mick Jagger. You know, and you say, well, no, actually, it sounds like, you know, and you've copied it. So then you try to get it closer to the thing that they want. And the closer you get to it, the more they want it even closer, until the point where you're actually copying it out note for note.
Oh, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's very
I don't like being in that area. But the thing is, if you want the job, you got to do it.
You know, I was once asked to do, although this is about you and not about me, I'm doing the talk anyway. I was once asked to do a jingle where I had to do a record copy of another recording, but they couldn't use the other recording.
Yeah.
So they said, we can't use it, but we want you to make a record that sounds exactly like this other recording. So I tried and I got, you know, I thought it sounded, and the person who was in charge said, no, it doesn't. It's still not right. What's wrong with you? I thought you were competent. I thought you could. So finally, I took the other record, and I actually gave them the other record, and they said, well, it's still not right, but I guess it's usable.
Oh, right. That's who you're dealing with.
That's who you're dealing with. But I want to talk about some of the sounds that you've found, because there are certain sounds where, I think most musicians who love your music, which is a legion of billions of people around the world, but most people who know your music would hear something and say, "Oh, that's a very Mike Gibbs sound." Now, why do you think they say that, and what kinds of things that you've written would you say they say it to?
I can't answer that. I don't know. Well,
isn't it great to have such a great guy interviewing you who asks questions like this?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm kind of not very. I don't know what the word is. I don't notice bad intonation often, and I think sometimes the bad intonation sort of sounds like my band.
Well, I'm not sure that it's a bad intonation.
The thing is, I've always got good musicians, so that it's unlikely that they're out of tune. Mind you, I did have a bad intonation situation once that I've gotten some slack for, and I can't, when I listen to it back, I can't tell what it is. There is out of tuneness, but I can't tell why. It was on Joni Mitchell's project.
Oh, really? Paprika Plains.
And when she made the Mingus album.
Oh, right.
Apparently, I've read bits on the internet. When she started working with Mingus, she played him there. Mm-hmm. And his only comment was, "Wow, those strings are out of tune."
Oh, right.
And when I go back, I mean, I don't think they're out of tune for the whole thing. It's a 9-minute section of music.
It's big.
And there's one moment where it's out of tune, but that's all a lot of people hear. But anyway, the thing is that this endeared Joni to Mingus, and
right.
they then got working more. So it turned out to be a plus, but it was a negative. Mm. And the thing is, Jaco, who got me the gig in the first place,
right.
His first comment was, "Wow, those strings are out of tune."
Oh.
The thing is, I must have noticed it at some time, but not early enough.
Right.
So whether that's my sound or not, I don't know.
No, I don't think it's that. Let me suggest another thing where I think people would say, "Oh, that's a very Mike Gibbs kind of sound." We were talking last night about your big fat triad voiced and one instrument is playing flat 9. You've got this great, huge, big fat G triad, and then there's one little guy in there playing an A flat. That's very much your kind of sound.
Well, the thing is, it's not just in fact, the instance I remember is a C triad with a G sharp in it.
Okay.
The thing is that the C triad is huge. It's like the ocean,
yes.
And the G sharp is a mere grain of salt.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not like C, E, G, G sharp. It's C, E, G, and this ambient noise including a G sharp. So it's the ratio of the timbre, the volume, etc. of these other notes.
Yes,
now I love to work that. I mean, I mentioned yesterday how for the last 10 years, which seems like a minute to me, I'm learning what notes to leave out. And I loved all my voicing way of discovering it, because it's a wonderful world to live in. But after a while, I started to leave out notes. What happened was I would write an arrangement, go to a different band, and there would be instruments missing, and it sounded better because some notes were... So I started working on leaving notes out.
It's cheaper, too.
Well, then recently with this Monk project I did, I mean, Monk plays this big, an E flat and a D, a flat 9 down, and that's all. And with a voicing, in the chord symbol. A chord, and I'm going through the chord, trying all these notes, and none of them sound like Monk. And then eventually I just had the trombones play E flat and the D, and it sounded, it fitted. It was
Why
right.
not?
So, but I couldn't adapt it to myself overnight. I had to. Each time I'm in a situation, it took me a long time to let go of these notes that I had found. But I'm eventually doing it quicker now. I can leave out notes, and it's... what happens is the rhythm section's playing the note you leave out, or the guitarist or the pianist.
Right.
So, again, it's there, but it's less of it.
It's percentage.
Yes, and it seems to work.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I feel like I'm getting on now, but I'm still discovering these things the same way I did when I was a student.
Right.